Welcome back to Reddit Boss, and in today's story, what some submissive girls want in bed. Let's get started. I'm going to share what a lot of me and my girlfriends talk about in terms of what we want from male partners in bed. This includes, obviously, the foundational basic of consent. Me and my friends are more submissive in bed. So those who are more dominant in the bedroom, this probably will not apply to you. But here I go. What more submissive women want from partners? The sexiest thing a guy can do is do what he ducking wants. There is nothing sexier for me than being able to fulfill a guy's fantasy. So many guys say they want to do X or Y, but when actually gets down to dirty time, they revert back to basic vanilla sex. If you want something that your partner has voiced, they are comfortable with or into, just duck and do it. For me, I love when a guy put his finger in my butt or calls me dirty names or says dirty crap to me. Personally, I think the worst thing a guy can do in the bed is be quiet. I not only want to make sure my partner is having a good time, but I find it essential in terms of reaching a climax. Nothing sexier than knowing your body feels good or you look good, etc., or that you're going to make them come. Girls need foreplay. A lot of guys think pushing a girl down on a bed and immediate glowing down on her is hot, which it is, but it's way hotter to push her down, look like you're about to go down on her, then tease the crap out of her. Take your damn time, and she will go insane, trust me. Also, speaking of oral, consistency is key. Start in a few different ways, then see how she responds and keep doing it. If she says keep doing that, she doesn't mean go faster. She means keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't be afraid to voice your fantasies. But more importantly, don't be afraid to try them with an ego participate. If you're more submissive in the bedroom, what gets you off is them having the power. Sometimes I feel like having to tell my partner what I want, and trust me, I have, is ultimately less sexy because I said it's about them doing what they want. Having to consistently say what you want out of a partner in bed loses its nuisance. It's way harder to have them try new things, and maybe you too will find new things you're interested in. My guy dominates me real good now, but at the start, we talked about it a lot. To make sure we were on the same page, hard-nosed yes pleases and safe words. It took a lot of work for us to get where we are, talking and practicing. We didn't talk about it during or right before doing it, because it kills the mood. Messaging in the lead up to getting together made us both feel safe and confident. Expecting a guy to just know is not a good idea. You have to communicate for both of your safety and well-being. It's a lot harder to execute than that. I've been subby my whole life, and now I'm switching up for a guy. It's actually really hard to be dominant. What would you say is the hard thing about being a dominant? I'm a dominant inside myself, but I have a hard time figuring out what makes it feel so awkward sometimes. Like, I feel like a little uneasy, turned off, uncomfortable, but I can't put my finger on why. It might not be the same for you, but I'm curious regardless. The hardest thing for me about being a dominant is that sometimes my partners, whether male or female, oftentimes like the idea of something, but when it comes down to doing it, they don't like it at all. Then, if they do want something more intense, like leather play or BDSM stuff, I'm extremely careful at first, because if they're new to it, I need to know their boundaries, physical limitations, and so on. Plus, I still treat my subs with respect, even though I can be harsh as soon as they say no or use a safe word. I pull my hands back and back away, no matter how hard it may be for me to stop. I guess being a good dominant is a lot of listening and crap load restraint. Plus, the dominant wants to not just act on their own desires, but also make you feel great too. It is not as easy do whatever you want to me, because it's just not. Sometimes the best way to get comfortable with being a dominant is to find the power within yourself and just tell your partner straightforwardly. This is a give and take situation. I'm in charge as of right now, and if at any point you want to stop, use the safe word and I will stop everything I'm doing. I know that when I said something like this, people respected me as much as I respected them. And finding that power to come straightforwardly towards the entire scene, it can be tricky though. I used to struggle with this too. I used to think guys who like to be dominated are very passive in real life. I also used to think no self-respecting man or manly man would want a woman to be in charge in the bedroom. Honestly, that is the example I have always had. My dad is a manly man and my mom is a strong-willed woman who is submissive to him. A classic marriage, really. For me, it took me a while to realize that the above statement isn't true, that you can be a strong, manly man and still like to be dominated. Don't take this the wrong way. I know that is a lot of toxic masculinity. The only way to get over thoughts like that is to disassociate sex shameful behavior. Nothing about sex is shameful at all. If it helps you at all think about sex like a doctor's office with a HIPAA laws, the doctor can't tell anyone about you, nor will anything you say leave the room, of course. There can be bedroom privacy laws between you and your partner, and communication is key. So if you think something like, only a slut will do or enjoy that, you can talk to your partner about it, slowly ease your way into any kind of act. Is it about respect? When I was younger in my 20s, I had a hard time doing certain things for fear of not respecting my girlfriend, in the sense of that somewhere deep in my mind, there was probably something that told me only a slut will do, enjoy that. Once I realized what was the problem, it was very easy to solve. I just needed to have a positive mindset. I think it's a lot of work and pressure to be a good dominant, and I'm insanely grateful to H for taking on the role with enthusiasm. You have to be on the entire time, in safety, reading your sub's reactions, steering your scene based on that. A good sub with a clear limits, who communicative and will help you whenever she can, is a huge help. But the dominant still does carry the bulk of the responsibility. Shout out to H and all the amazing dominants out there. It is very hard to be a good dominant, and pressure does get to you sometimes. I hate to sound like a weirdo here, but there are times that even though I care about my partner and I know that they like the act that I'm doing, I'm also kind of on the verge of tears. Mostly because I'm still a human being, and some part of BDSM are really against my humanity. Like impact play, for example. When I first tried it, I hated it because as a child, I was spanked, and that's what it reminded me of. My parents would hit me hard sometimes. I deserved it. And it kind of makes me wince when I do impact play. Very true. Not everything is for everyone. So if it causes you and your sub distress, either mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, etc. Personally, I've been assaulted a couple times in my life, and I was in an abusive relationship in the past. So some parts of BDSM, like hands of torture, where you're restrained and your partner occasionally or doesn't touch you at all, and even making me feel too vulnerable. When I do sub is a big no for me. So my partner and I do not do that sort of thing. So be safe and be smart. Remember, first rule of BDSM is do no true harm. Big yes to this. I've been dominant in some relationships more because they were too submissive. So I had to fill the void of dominance. But the dude I'm with now is super dominant in our relationship. But in the sheets, he is more submissive. And he has confused to me just how submissive he wants to be. It's hard switching because I've got to the age where I decided it's simply more submissive in bed. But now I'm with the guy and I want to be with for the rest of my life. And it's obvious I need to play the dominant role for him half the time. It's been a process, but recently we have become more comfortable with me being dominant one sometimes. Just hope he doesn't get used to it, because this girl likes to be dominant. Laugh out loud. I find it hilarious that I'm 6 feet, 225 with a muscular build but highly sensitive and empath. It's my reminder that the universe has sense of humor. I like the dominant thing to be for me, especially if women find it sexy. I'm happy to hear it's emotional. I find that I feel fully sexually liberated and safe when I have to close emotionally connection to my partner. This made me casual flings difficult. But once I find that special someone, I want to practice and rock her world. I think I'm probably potentially somewhere in the empath realm too, but I'm just naturally dominant by the way of leadership that any kind of authoritarianism work professionally and works in love too. I'd say check out some of this stuff related to Daddy Dome, where it's actually about being supportive and caring, about also a decision maker, rock and shoulder to lean on. Like I said, you need the foundation of consent. Like the last comment, that means talking about yes and hard no's. Safe words too. I think dominating doesn't have to mean the absence of communication, of what feels good, what doesn't, etc. I'm not sure how to answer your second question, but I will tell you personally, a large part of the pleasure for me comes from that the power control aspect, and the goal of this is so that everybody has a good time. I don't think any one person is responsible if the sex isn't pleasurable. Takes two to tango. I'm not saying sex isn't good if my partner isn't doing these things. I'm just saying it'd be so much better for me and my girlfriends who I've talked to about this. But yeah, new partners, old partners, any partners, talk to them about what they like, but then try to actually do it what they like. You can even be on the receiving end of rough sex and still be dominant. I talked about it with my husband, who's my dominant. Being the pursuer initiated does not necessarily mean you're the dominant. It's about power. In our relationship, it's really obvious who physically is stronger. So I can, and I am theoretically encouraged to, though I haven't really found a good alternative, try to make him have sex with me with the understanding that there is no way I could succeed without his permission. If I wanted to actually be dominant, I would have to tie him up, or we'd have to have pre-agreed rules that he can fight back, and I have no interest in those scenarios. Being aggressive sub is a thing. I've just figured out how to work in it. The rest of my craziness of daily life. Yeah, this is a really great way to cross consent boundaries and or make your partner have an unenjoyable time. As an aside, as a male who is always hearing about affirmative consent and lack of yes means no advice, like this is incredibly confusing. Oh, we want you to take control and do what you want to us versus, oh, you have to explicit affirmative consent for everything you do. Makes me want to throw my hands up and give up on sex and dating entirely. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this story. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Reddit Boss. Until next time, take care.